Hello everybody, and thank you for joining the talk about the CoreForms CoreMedia extension in the user group. And my name is Timo Lemke, and I'm working at Talents as a CoreMedia software developer. And yeah, I want to show you the CoreForms extension, and it's an open source GitHub repo, and it can be integrated in the CoreMedia Blueprint workspace. There are different integration strategies like Git submodules or subtree. You can read more about it in the README file of the GitHub repo. And it will integrate in several extension points from the CoreMedia components. But first I want to show you what CoreForms is and how it feels and how we can use it as an editor. So CoreForms is a possibility for editors to create their own web forms without to program any templates or CSS or JavaScript. And as you can see in the screenshot, you can basically drag and drop the available form fields into your form and give them names and configure them. And the form on the web page will be generated by your configuration. And you can define actions to configure where the form submits from the users will be routed. So there are two built-in basic actions, a mail action and a database action. But from my experience, in every project you will need custom actions because the requirements are so unique in every project. You might want to route your form submits to a CRM or another remote API or something like that. So it's, from my point of view, it's easy to create your own actions. It's very easy to do that. You just need to implement an interface. You can send the data to your own systems unique. And what you see here in the screenshot is a document form in the studio, as you know it from when you're editing channels or pictures or articles, something like that. And the configuration you make by applying form elements will be stored in a struct property. So when you make changes, you can check in the version and you can compare versions and restore old versions, and you can send your documents in the translation workflows, so you can compare the languages and so on. So you basically get all features you know from other documents, and the form document is a teasable document, so you can also link it in collections as you know it from other documents. Okay, I will already switch to a very short demo to show you how it looks like and how it feels. Wait. So you see a standard studio. It's already the latest version of CoreMedia 11. And so we have one example document form opened here. And you have the default form types you already know. And the first special things is you can choose an action which defines where to route the form submits. There are only two built-in actions, but you can define your own actions here. And the next thing is you can apply the form elements to your form. I have already applied some form elements, like a select box, or just a simple text field, the family name. There are more complex fields like the select box above, or if you have some file uploads or things like that. And you can take the form fields and move it around. And you can add, of course, you can add new fields. Like, for example, we want to have a message field. So I can just drag and drop it here so the user can enter a message. And there are some possibilities to the advanced settings. So you can control the layout. I've done that in the salutation to break after this element, so there won't be a next element after it, and restrict it to 2 columns, which of course depends on your project layout. And you can control the visibility of the field, which I have and there are 2 more fields and the CoreMedia version, and it's not displayed right now. When I see the advanced settings, you see that this field depends on the favorite CMS field and depends on the value CoreMedia. So if I choose WordPress, I will see nothing, and if I choose CoreMedia, I will see the next fields. And of course, the hosting is a mandatory field, but of course, if I choose another one, then it's not mandatory anymore. Yeah, that's it. You can. This is the front end in the preview, and it's generated by a Vue.js app. Of course, you can build your own app in React or whatever you like. And there's also a headless integration. So you can use the form editor completely headless if you would like to. Okay, so that's it for the first demo. So I will continue a basic architecture point of view. So this is, I think this is more user group. We have many developers here, so I will go show some insights of the architecture in a small coding demo afterwards. Yeah, and the first point I already mentioned, very important for customer projects are action classes, because you want to, the user form data is very high value, and it's very important to route it to your systems, to your customer relation management system, something like that. And luckily, to create your own action is very simple. You just have to implement the interface form action, and you need to create a Spring Bean for that class. And that's it, basically. And you have to implement 2 methods. One will check if the when the action is responsible, or if the action is responsible for the current form. And the second one takes the form fields, and you can serialize them and send to your API. I will show you later on, I will show you a small example. So this is one of the most important extension points, but it's very simple. If you want to create your own form elements, like these are the elements which are already built in. If you want to create your own, then it's possible too, of course. It's a little bit more complex because this happens at a bit more extension points. So a form element basically is built by 3 components, and that's the parser. And the parser is responsible for creating the form element itself and the validator. All of them, they are no content beans. They are in the first place independent of content beans or content UAPI objects, but the parser will receive the struct which is used for the configured form element. You can see, actually, you can see the struct in the system tab. So for example, you see this one defines one form field, it defines the select box. You should, of course, you should not edit this struct. It can break everything, and it's read only, or you could even remove it from your document form if the editors get confused, but it might be interesting to see how the struct looks like. And this struct will be passed to the parser, and the parser will create a form element. object out of that struct. And sorry. And the puzzle is a Spring Bean, so you can basically do whatever you want. You can make remote calls or use the settings service or look up every config you want and use it for your form element. So it's pretty flexible and can be used for many use cases. So I even saw a setup where the forms were defined in a remote form system like SurveyMonkey, I don't know. And we used the JSON API, which defined the forms, and we used form parsers for these fields because we wanted to add some own fields to the SurveyMonkey form. So I think it's a pretty flexible structure. There are some more components like I will show later, and this parser it's kind of the basic architecture part of form elements, and it's used in several places. It's used in the CAE for generating the JSON used by the Vue.js app. It's used later on in the form controller to structure the submit data and validate the data. It's used in the Atlas server, of course, if you're going with that architecture. And it's used in the validators too, like in the Studio server. If you want to make sure that the struct the editor creates is valid, they're using the same structure. You don't validate struct, but you validate the created form elements. Yeah, and it's used, of course, in the content feeder too. I think it's a great feature that you can search for validation errors. So it's integrated in the content feeder as well. Yeah, so I will come to the components you also might want to create when you create new form elements. Of course, you will probably want to create a Studio form element component. So you can, like you've seen here, so if you want to edit a select box, you want to add options, but if you want to edit in a message field, you have different input fields here, and these are Studio components. You probably need to create a front-end component in the front-end part. It's Vue.js for us. If you go with a headless server, you probably need to extend your GraphQL. In most cases, it's useful to add a Studio validator to make sure the user enters the correct data. Like, for example, I think there's a validator for the regex. So if you enter invalid regex, like, I think that's invalid regex. Oh, it's like immediately. Okay, so sorry, I see that the error message is still wrong, unfortunately, but like you see, the form element is highlighted red, and we get the validator error message here on this place from our custom or from our text field Studio validator. And we want to add JUnit test, of course, too. So adding a custom form element, it's no rocket science, but it's a bit more complex than adding a custom form action. Yeah, and if you are like us, if you're one of the graybeards who's still working with CAE and who does not make extensive use of the headless server, then you will probably use the form controller, which is part of the form editor CAE extension. And we also have a Vue.js app for the front-end part, which is a different GitHub repo I will show you later on. And this basically looks like this. The Vue.js app makes a config GET request to fetch the JSON representation of all form fields. And you can fill in the form data as we just saw in the preview. And the form field values will be validated by the JS validators in the Vue.js app. And these validators are dynamically created by the config request. And when you submit the data, the same validators will be applied in the backend. So of course they are not exactly the same. There's no JavaScript, but Java editors, Java validators, but they use the same rules and they are based on the same configuration made on the form fields. And if all validation rules passed, the appropriate action will be chosen and the submit data will be routed to your backend, like an email or database or message queue, which I think is in general a good idea. Yeah. So just of course, this is just an example architecture. As I said, you might want to integrate in the headless server, or you might want to create another front-end app, a React app, or you might want to go with FreeMarker templates as well. Of course, that's possible too. Yeah, we'll jump in another coding demo to show you, to give you an insight about the code. Enter the presentation. First, I already prepared some code because I think it takes too much time to build everything from scratch. But what I want to show you is that it's quite easy to build a custom action. So I make custom action. It's a Spring Bean. That's important, so that the form controller will automatically be injected in the form controller. And I will implement these two methods. And this one would check if the action is responsible for this key. The form controller would take the configured key of the form document, and you can return true or false if it's responsible or not. So to decide whether the action is responsible, we also need to configure our custom form action in the drop-down box. As you see here, there's a drop-down box where you can choose your action, and there are two built-in options. And of course, I need to create a third option here. So this is the drop-down box in the document form, and I will add a new action here. To be more quick, I will just enter a fixed description. And this is the key which is used in my action class. So I will just do key equals. So that's all. And so in that part, I will have to take a list of form elements or even files if you have a file upload field, and take the form elements. And what I will probably do, I can take the value of a form document, and I can call the method serialize value. So the form element can already take care of itself to serialize the value, so because it might be a list or something else depending on your form element. But serialized value will always return a string. So it's especially made for your action. So the action don't have to know about every form element and its special types, but it just can call serialized value. Yeah, what you can do here, you can serialize all form elements, and you can append them to a large string or put them in the JSON structure, whatever you want here. I think you can imagine following steps. Yeah, that's said about the form actions. So in the next step, I want to show you how you can create a form field. I already prepared some classes, so I will create a form field called user group. And as I said, we will start with a user group parser, which is a Spring component, which I could inject any service here, which I won't do for this demo. And I extend the abstract form element parser because this abstract parser already does a lot of relevant stuff. Like you've seen in the studio that we have these advanced settings and we have a name and a hint and so on. And basically all form elements have these things. Advanced settings, almost all form elements have these. And you don't want to parse the advanced settings in every parser again. So it makes sense that you use the abstract form element parser. And you have so there are just three methods which should be implemented or overwritten. One is the parser key, so that the form element factory can knows for which form element this parser is responsible for. And you have this instantiate method. You can already do some things here. And you have the parse special fields method where you can do more complex stuff. And I will tell more about this idea later on. So this for now about the parser. So this is typed to the form element itself. It's this one. Again, I will extend the abstract form element because it already takes care of these common fields I just mentioned, like advanced settings and so on. So what I do here, I'm only taking care about the special fields I want to deal with in my custom form element. So I decided I want to build in a field which gives the user the possibility to choose his country. And so I have a list of countries in my form element. The form element itself has nothing more to do. The value of the form element is already handled in the abstract form element. So here I only have to deal with my custom code. The third step, I have my validator, which is responsible for validating the user input. I have in my form element, I have a list of countries. So the validate method is taking care of, is the user input a valid input? So in this case, it means, is this country known by my list of countries? And if it's not, I return this validation error, which will handled later on and will be logged and will be handled by the Vue.js app. You will see an appropriate error in this case. So, I don't use the Atlas server right now, but I use the CAE. The Vue.js app needs JSON, which describes the form element. So I need a serializer. This is just a Jackson serializer, which is responsible for serializing my form element to JSON. And again, there's another abstract serializer, which already taking care of all the advanced form settings and so on. So what I want here, I just want to extend it with my special fields, and I will just write a JSON array with all countries placed inside my form element. So the right country, I will do that for each country. And I have my Vue.js component, which renders the select box, and of course for each country one option. So and yeah, so there's one more thing left. I have the studio component. You can define, it's like you can imagine like it's a document form for your studio fields, for your form element fields. And basically you will define input fields for each property you want to configure. Like in the family, in the text field, I have these input fields. In my case, I just want to add the name and the preferred locale, which could control in which locale the countries will be displayed. And you have some meta type, like this is very important. It's the field types. So the form factory will know which parser is responsible for this field. I can define an icon. Like each form field has its icon, and I can build a custom icon, and I can configure the group. So I chose the group input, but this is this one. So you can also structure in the complex group or other group. And of course, you can define your own groups too. Okay, and now we'll try to activate this field. And let PNPM Watcher do the job. By the way, I think it's a really nice developer workaround to run with PNPM Start and PNPM Watch, and it's really fast and it feels a lot better than the old Django Maven plugins and Maven modules. I really like it. So it's already done, and I hope we will see a new field here. Yeah, here it is. Great. So we have this user group field here. One more word about adding this editor field in the document form. So this is a classical document form. You also know that same a teaser document form or article document form. This is the form for this. For this form, it's a bit confusing because it's a form. It's a studio document form for the form editor form. So, and you can configure which field editors you want to use. For example, you want to decide in your project that you don't need the IBAN field, so you just can remove this one out of this list. You can just delete it, or even better, you would create your own document form in your project-specific studio extension. This is a rule I would suggest for all of these modifications. I put all of these classes in the CoreForms extensions directly. And as for the blueprint 2, it makes sense that you place your custom components and your custom extensions. I would suggest that. So I have only core extensions blueprint workspace here, and I don't have these custom extensions here. So it's for the demo, it's another case, but it's possible because you will implement the interfaces or extend the abstract classes and create Spring components, and it doesn't matter in which package the classes are created. It only matters that they are available in the Spring context. And I think it's the same for the document form. You should create it in your own extension if you want to change it. So I can apply this new user group field. Now I'll choose a locale, like Okay. So unfortunately, we don't see it. I don't know why this is. It's probably because of the front-end workspace, I think. Yeah. Yeah, I will have to restart the front-end workspace watch task so that my custom view component will be updated. But I don't know what you think. I think you get the idea, and it doesn't matter if I promise it will work. Do you want to wait another 2 minutes to see the form field, or should I continue with the next slides? What do you think?
Just continue.
Okay, okay. I promise it will work. I tried it before. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So yeah, about the roadmap. So first thing, it's an open source repo, and all of you are welcome to create your own modifications or improvements or fix bugs, anything like that. You're very welcome to do that, and you can create pull requests and issues if you want. So what we do, we are taking care of CoreMedia updates. Like I just made it compatible to the 2010 version of CoreMedia. This was really easy. I just had to change the versions of package dependencies in the studio. Of course, there are more complex updates, like the CM11 update was a bit more work because we have to migrate everything to TypeScript. And me and my another contributor, Jan-Henrik Popp, we are working on a multi-page feature, so that you can use multiple pages. We have only one page here, and we are working on a feature that you have multiple pages to create, and so you have a multi-page web form here. And we are already very far in that way, but it's still not finished. There are still some problems in the studio part when you switch from multi-page to single-page mode. But you can, if you're interested, you can have a look in this branch. And there's some feature on the horizon. We think it would be very nice to have an external studio app. So we are not dependent on XJS anymore, but on React or whatever. It would be easier to maintain and to extend, but we would have to rebuild the whole studio part. So I don't know when we will have the time for that. So, and about the community, these are the links to the GitHub repositories. There's one for the Coremedia integration, the studio, CIEs, and so on. And there's one for the Vue.js app. And yeah, as I said, feel free to use it and to ask questions and to participate. And I want to especially thank all contributors working on this project and who fixes bugs and give good ideas. And it's very nice and helpful. And I like to work on this open source community. I think it's great. And special thanks for customers. So there are some developments we do for our customers, and the customers allow us to take this development parts and bring it back to the open source GitHub repository. So the customers, especially Hamburg.de and Jungheinrich, this is very great. Thank you for that. Yeah, last info, we have another open source repository. It's the Redirect Manager. Check out that if you're interested. That's it. Thanks for listening. Feel free to contact us if you have any questions.